Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for making it on a rainy day. My name is Ilann Girard. I am a producer based in France. You may have seen some of my previous film, a film called Plastic Planet, another film called March of the Penguin. And today I have, the privilege to be here with Rezwan Sharia Sumit, a filmmaker from Bangladesh, to present his film about his country, about a place that is very dear to him, fisherman village in South Bangladesh. And the reason why I was attracted to this story is that I think the story is not a climate change film. It's a film that takes place in the context of climate change. It's a drama, it's a fiction, but also it tells us a lot about this country on the forefront of globalization and climate change. And this is why I would like to leave the floor to Sumit to say a few words about the film.
So hi everyone. My name is Rezwan Sharia Sumit and I'm the writer and director of this film, and this is my first feature. And I'm really thrilled to be here in this room right now because the film world premiered last year at the BFI London Film Festival, and I was stuck at home due to travel restrictions and COVID. And the entire year the film has traveled to many festivals, and this is the first time I was able to step outside Bangladesh and come and represent the film and also the community it speaks about. So yeah, thank you so much for making it on a rainy day and making this very special memory for me. So the film, The Salt in Our Waters, is set in the very southern most point of Bangladesh in a district called Patuakhali, in a tiny fishing village where 20 families used to live. The reason why I say used to, because we shot the film 2.5 years ago, and within 2.5 years, the village where we shot has disappeared. It's now gone. So the film that you see, the village, the community that you see here in the next 1.5 hours, all of it is gone. People had to move further north. And I don't think there is a more fitting example of climate change. And I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm just a storyteller, and I have been observing this community since 2015, when I first wrote this script. And it's a tiny dot on the face of the earth. And I feel like by observing this community so up close and so firsthand, and by befriending them, I know a little bit about climate change, because this is something that has been affecting them and has displaced them entirely. So I hope you enjoy the film, and if you stay back, we'll be back and have a little chat with you how we made this film.
Just a little thing, there will be a QR code on the screen that you can use to ask your questions. Okay, and we'll read your questions. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the film. So if you have questions, you have to use this QR code, and we'll see the question on this iPad. Okay. Maybe before we start, I think I would like to ask one question to Sumit, a question that I'd never asked him before. It's a very personal question. My question to him is, what brought him there on those shores, but also how he relates to this character of Woodrow, because he's also an artist. And I've never dare ask him the question, so he said, you can ask the question. So, Sumit.
Yeah, okay, so I'll begin with the first part of that question. Back in 2008, When I was an undergrad student in Dhaka, I had no idea that this community existed. Like all city kids, I was in my own bubble. And the place where we shot is not too far away from a tourist destination. Part of what we shot is not too far away from a tourist destination. Probably it is around 1 hour away. So I went there with my friends, my business school friends. We were hanging out. I had a bit of knack for photography. So I took my DSLR camera and I thought that I'm going to take a walk, get out of the tourist bubble and see the places along the coastal line. And that is when I first started discovering these tiny fishing clusters along the shorelines. And our visit was 3 months after a devastating cyclone called Cedar. And I saw the destruction that happened due to the cyclone. The trees were all fallen, houses were ruined. But at the same time, I saw the fishermen had started rebuilding. And they were already on their way back to the ocean. Yes, these are tiny boats. The boats are tossed around by the high tide. And it's super tense. I was very young, and I always thought the boats are going to go upside down. And those images stayed with me. And I spoke with the fishermen, and those conversations had influenced me in some ways. And then later, when I switched tracks, I went to study film in New York at NYU Tisch. That is where my professors first told me to start developing a feature script. And that is when I, because those images, because sometimes films are created from one image. One image, you start thinking about it. Why are those fishermen going back to the ocean every day over and over again? And the boats go all the way up 90 degrees. And I started studying them. And then once I had the idea of this script, I came back home and I started doing active research. And that's how the film was born. And the fishermen and their families, they played a role in the script writing process. So without their green light, I would never shoot. So they were part of the table reads, and they would take part, and they would give me very important notes. And of course, I spent time with them. So all of that led me toward the production eventually. And without their help, I couldn't have do production. You're shooting in monsoon, so you kind of need a village, to make a film like this.
Yeah, thank you. I see that we have already some question here. So maybe I start with not the first one, but the second question, which is a question about the actors. So I read the question, how many of the cast were actors and how many villagers? And I think that's a very interesting question because it also has to do with your own experience in writing the script.
Yeah, so only 6 of them are actors from the city. The rest are all real fishermen and their families playing different roles. The reason is because I wanted the film to feel grounded. That's why I worked with real fishermen, and I had built a rapport with them because I've been visiting them all the time, staying with them. And they were also super excited to be in the film. But the process for professionally trained actors and non-professional actors were different. The non-professional actors, of course, did not need dialogue rehearsals because I wanted to have those moments captured raw. What we did was we did some blocking rehearsals with them, but with the professional actors, they had to moved to that community a few weeks early so that they could familiarize themselves with the natural setting. Yeah.
Yes, so maybe I go to the first question, which you know is linked to the mention you made about what happened to this village and to this community. So, do you want to tell us a little bit, because you've been back in the village recently, and what has happened and what has happened to those guys that were there working with us?
Yeah, so I'm really thankful to the organizers here at COP26 that they have invited this film to screen at such an important venue. I'm not a climate expert, not a scientist. No, I'm not representing the government or any NGOs or any corporations. I'm just a storyteller. And I went to this community, found this community, and stuck to this story, never gave up, stayed committed, just because of these people. The people I fell in love with, they are larger than life characters, they're colorful, resourceful, full of ideas and hopes and aspirations. And I feel like in conferences like this, sometimes the human element is missing. We sometimes forget whom we are fighting for. So that's why stories like these are very important. But then the film, a new dimension got added to the film. So when after the lockdowns, I was not able to visit the community for 1.5 years, and I was getting news over phone that things were changing. But then once lockdowns were lifted, the second or third lockdown, I've lost count, back in June, I went back to the fishing community. And when I went there, I found to the village where we shot, it was just branches lying on the floor, on the ocean floor, sandy floor, and the houses were all gone. And I literally had to find the people I worked with because they had moved elsewhere. Some of them had known that I was coming, so they came to see me. And the whole thing, it was a very sobering experience for me because it's a very a place that I love, I fell in love with, and a place and the people are very near to me. So when I saw that everything that they cared for is gone, had an effect on me. So, and it's because of rising sea level and erosion, and that it's been happening in many parts of Bangladesh. And this village we couldn't save, but there are hundreds of other villages that needs immediate attention. Yeah. So, and the other thing is, how do we help these people? So I feel like not only that we need to build embankments, we need to regreen the mangrove forest because mangrove forests are the natural walls that can help communities like this. But at the same time, we need to build capacity so that they don't only depend on fishing. The women can do poultry, they can do weaving, and take up other handicrafts, and they can sustain in that way as well. Because in that area, even the fishing cycles are all topsy-turvy now, so it's very hard to predict, and all because of human-induced climate change.
Yeah, I think there's an element in this film that goes beyond maybe our own intention. That the evolution and the fact that even we've seen as we're shooting, we could see the sea, or the land receding, has a great impact. When you look at maybe, and this is also the purpose of this conference, when you look at the consequences of the rising of the sea, you have a problem with salinization. You have the fact that the community are pushed toward the inland, and sometimes there is no land to cultivate. You have also the fish stock that is going down, also due to other issues with, fishing activities by very big trawlers. So it's really very exemplary of all the consequences of climate change. Not to mention, and actually this is one of our question here, the role of religion and science that plays in this film, because as you see, people have a very strong connection with their faith, and they try to find answers. And the answers also goes with maybe a social system at some point. And it would be very interesting you develop a little bit on that aspect, the role between science and
so
the cultural clash somehow.
So change is happening every day, and they are facing these disruptions, but they don't have the big picture. They don't know why it's happening to them. The issues that we are talking about in the COP26 conferences, the fact that there is a conference happening of this nature, they are not aware of this. So in that void, religious superstition grows. And people like chairman who have, yes, he's a guardian. He has been keeping this community glued together. But at the same time, he's also a businessman, and he suffers loss due to the change that are happening, and that's why he sometimes even endangers the fishermen and pushes them towards the ocean. And he uses faith to have control over them. And all of a sudden, this artist comes and he shakes up the status quo, and all these conservative elders, they are uncomfortable.
Maybe by this answer, we come back to one question, which we have from someone here who grew up in a village of Jesore.
Oh, Joshua.
Yes.
Joshua.
Okay, all right. And there's a question about whether, the censor board has permitted the exploitation of the film. And maybe I go back to my first question. How much of Rudro is in Sumit?
So to my friend from Joshua, we got the census certificate last week before I came to COP. And the film will be released in Bangladeshi theaters on November 26th by a major distributor. So people of Bangladesh will be able to watch it. And also, we obviously did not make the film by ourselves, even though the inception of it, I was alone. But then I had all these incredible people who came on board. Ilann came on board. I had an amazing DP. Her name is Chananung Chotrungrose. She is from Thailand. She shot the film. She was the cinematographer. Amazing production designer, Sylvain Namias from France. And at the same time, a large crew from Bangladesh as well. And they all came together to make this film. And also there are organizations who supported it. For example, we got funding from the CNC, Cinema du Monde, from the Torino Film Lab in Italy. And then we got money from Spike Lee, the director, and he was my mentor in New York. I had mentoring sessions with him. At the same time, I also won the national film grant in Bangladesh from the Information Ministry. And so they also are supporters of this film.
We have a question how long it took to make the film. So, when you produce a film and when you are the director of the film, it's several years of your life that you have to dedicate. You started in 2013?
So 2014-15, that's
okay.
when the first draft was written.
Yeah, and we met in 2016. The film was shot in 2018. It was about 2.5 months.
So in total, 36 full shooting days, and we did not lose a single day to rain. So in a way, we were blessed. Because when you're shooting like this, sometimes, you shoots are ruined, but we were blessed in that way.
And then we had a pretty long period of what we call post-production, so all the technical work on the image, on the sound, that was done mainly in France with extraordinary people that work on the very big film. And so it's a long process. And I think that we have here a question about the relationship with people and whether they discover the film. So maybe you want to say what the plan?
Yeah. So that is a very good question. So the people you see on this film, they will never come to a theater because there is no theater anywhere close to where they are. They will never log into a streaming platform to watch this film. So we thought as filmmakers, it is our duty to bring the film to them. So on November 26th, the film will be released in Bangladeshi theaters. But before that, prior to that week, we are going to have 3 screenings in 3 islands where we shot and also did our research. And we are very excited for those screenings. Thank you so much. And I feel like the fishers and their families, they have the right to watch it first. And believe it or not, they have been calling me for the past 2 years and complaining, why does it take you guys, you art house filmmakers, to finish a film so long?
Blame the French. Yes, we have other question. I mean, here, yes, we have a lot of question about people, about question about the fishermen. So I think we've kind of addressed that. I mean, there's a question. What is your next project, Sumit? Do you want to say about it?
Yeah, so I am currently working on a documentary that I began shooting during my latest trip. It's a 15-minute documentary short called Tide is Rising. That is nearing ending of post-production. And I would love to show it to people in the festival circuit and also in the people who work in such places with climate change actively. And it is the same topics, but from a climate change angle, sort of retracing these fishermen and their families and telling us how their lives changed in the last 2.5 years. So it's a documentary that I'm working on.
Yeah, because what is important is that, for us, really the journey with this film is maybe just beginning, because we had this long COVID period. Yes, we went to festival, it was great, but we didn't have the audience with us. So the release of the film in Bangladesh would be very important, and we have a very good, buzz about it. But also we want to, with this film, to bring attention to the situation in Bangladesh and on those communities. And so the documentary, we're working also on an educational kit. It's a great way to explain to younger audience the challenges of climate change and how impact lives of millions of people around the world, and make the life of those fishermen much more difficult and complicated. So we are really looking for, and I say that because we are recording this session, we're really looking for partners that want to take this film and bring it, to different type of audiences and make the story of this fisherman, a call for action, so that we understand, we better understand what the situation and what the consequences of climate change.
But I'd like to add to that is that if you have colleagues or friends who couldn't make it today, but you would like to recommend the film to them, if they're based in the UK, there's a good news. So British Film Institute, BFI, they acquired the film, so the film will be available on the BFI platform within the UK region. So you can recommend it to others. So the BFI is carrying it.
Okay. Well, I think, do we have any? No, I think we have very nice comments, so I'm not reading all of them, but Sumit will discover them.
Anyone who couldn't use the app wants to shout out a question, feel free. On YouTube,
No.
not now. Not now. Maybe once we have properly distributed it and
Yeah.
used all the proper channels. After that, perhaps, yeah. Um, Yeah,
Sure.
so the documentary is available for educational purposes, because that's why I'm making the film. So it would be great to continue the conversation. Yeah, please. No, because it was all fair pay. Paying the actors in which sense? Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
No,
No.
I think we're working with, I mean, I'm not from Bangladesh, but I think we're working with some of the best Bangladeshi actors. Um, German is a very big actor.
But I think what she means is that they are getting paid more
Because
as actors, the locals. You're asking about the locals, right? Yeah. No, most of the locals were involved with the film, either in front of the camera or behind the camera. For example, the set design that you see, even though there was a production designer, but in the arts team, we employed the local women and men. The way the saris are used as curtains, the way the floor is designed, everything. Like we employed all the locals to design. We sort of gave them an empty canvas and asked them, how do you do it usually? Do it. And then we, sometimes we reposition stuff for composition. But the locals had full agency on the set. Yeah, so actors, as I said, that I blocked some of their movements for compositional reasons. But non-actors usually do not hit their marks. So the DP and her focus puller, they all had to be, run and gun. Like you have to know that not always they are going to hit the mark, so you have to pull focus on the fly. So it was very difficult to shoot. It wasn't easy, but yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to present the film. It is the biggest screening we had. I mean, in terms of size of screen, it's really giant. But it was really, for us, I think it was a beautiful experience, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.